Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and welcome back to Knowledge Pool. This week the viewers have spoken and you want budget standard. In particular, we've seen a lot of requests for a budget blue-white heroic deck. Fortunately for all of us, a lot of cards that are natural fits for this deck are also fairly inexpensive. We were surprised to see you could even get a playset of Detention Sphere for about $10. It took a bit of refining, but this is what we came up with. Naturally, with a deck built around heroic, we want to start with some heroic creatures. Hero of Iroas is a good starting place here. He's a bear with a heroic ability that gives him counters, and on top of all that, he reduces the cost of your auras. However, we found that a full playset was a bit much, both due to budget concerns and because the redundancy wasn't worth it. Hero of Iroas is a 3 of. As for smaller heroic creatures, we picked out some hoplites to stack up auras onto. Favored Hoplite, as a 4 of, can march into battle fearlessly once you suit him up. Being able to prevent damage is good like that. Battlewise Hoplite, also a 4 of, lets you scry through your deck as you stack auras onto him. The goal here is to close the game as quickly as possible, so every draw counts, and Battlewise Hoplite helps you make the most of them. 3 Akroan Skyguard fill out the last slots for heroic creatures. While we have plenty of ways to grant flying through auras, having flying built in gives us a little more flexibility regarding which auras go where. And our last creature, while not heroic, is 4 Eidolon of Countless Battles. This is a solid card here because it scales with everything you play, and you can drop it on one of your other creatures for a heroic trigger. Moving on to enchantments, our one non-aura enchantment is Detention Sphere, which we were able to fit a playset of in this deck. Detention Sphere is one of the most solid removal spells in the format right now, and on top of that, it scales up your Eidolons and Ethereal Armors. Speaking of which, Ethereal Armor is an automatic 4 of in the deck. The combination of First Strike and a power boost that scales with your enchantments is a steal for 1 mana. Gift of Orzhova is another easy 4 of, granting evasion, lifelink, and a power toughness boost. Our last 4 of is Fate Foretold. We were originally thinking of dedicating this slot to Aqueous form, but the evasion was pretty redundant. On the other hand, card draw would otherwise be in short supply in a deck like this, and getting the heroic trigger always helps. Beyond that, it also gives you a nice bit of insurance should one of your creatures take a hero of his downfall to the face. We wrap up the spell package with 2 Ephara's Enlightenment. The mana cost and effect are somewhat unwieldy compared to what else is in the deck, which is why it's only a 2 of. However, the ability to bounce it back to your hand lets you get extra heroic triggers out of it, which could come in handy. The land base is simple enough, a playset of Azorius Guildgate, 9 islands, and 11 plains. That's about as good as it gets on a tight budget. Now, our approach has been very aura-centric, but there are other options. Fabled Hero is what we're getting at here. 3 mana is on the expensive side for a game plan focused around auras, but he would fit well in a more spell-based heroic approach with cards like God-Willing, Dauntless Onslaught, and Triton Tactics. We would recommend cutting out a combination of Battlewise Hoplite and Eidolon of Countless Battles for the Fabled Hero, and some Fate Foretold and maybe a copy or 2 of Ethereal Armor to make room for spells. Since you'd be running fewer auras, Ethereal Armor and the Eidolon have less to scale off of. And on top of that, cutting even 1 Eidolon gives you the budgetary wiggle room to pick up a full playset of Fabled Hero, which you definitely want to run with it if you use it at all. And that wraps it up, a deck you can build and play for under $40. However, some of you have been asking about what you can do if your budget isn't quite so constrained. Well, the obvious place to start would be lands. Hallowed Fountain and Temple of Enlightenment are your go-to lands here. With those in the deck, you'd probably want to cut the Azorius Guildgates back to 1 or 2 at most. If you're feeling particularly bold, you could also spring for some Mutavaults. They don't make very good aura targets, but being able to push through for that extra damage or have a blocker in a pinch is still powerful. If you want to stay in your current colors, adding Ephara, God of the Polis isn't a bad choice either. The deck being all permanents helps get her online as a creature, and she gives you a way to draw more cards if a game goes long. If you want to stick to strictly heroic creatures, Citizen Oathsworn's on the expensive side but can grow to an unmanageable size, fast. Hero of Lena Tower gives you a solid outlet for extra mana, either the odd change you might have left over after casting an aura, or excess lands in the late game. You can also add Unflinching Courage if the life gain from Gift of Orzhova isn't enough for you. Red is also another viable splash option here. Akroan Crusader lets you build up an army of tokens, and if you switch in some Phalanx leaders, you can build those tokens into a bigger, stronger army. Annex and Siamede also make a strong offensive option, particularly in combination with the aforementioned Crusader and Army of Tokens. Madcap Skills is also an enchantment worth considering, making your creatures difficult to block profitably while also providing a large power boost. On top of that, if you want cheaper creature removal than Detention Sphere, Splashing Red gives you access to Chain to the Rocks. If you want to expand like that into another color, the biggest thing you'll need to invest in is lands. Shock lands are huge for that sort of thing, especially with the amount of life gain you have available. In addition, temples are already available in pretty much every color combination we looked at here. We hope you enjoyed this week's Budget Standard deck tech. Remember to vote below for next week's video. You can choose between Legacy, Modern, Budget Modern, and Standard. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.